Gabe, there's something that's bothering me more than anything when it comes to Rutgers. I still, as a New Jersey native and someone who loves Rutgers, loves Coach Giano, 2024 was the year where Rutgers really had a shot at the playoffs, but what really killed them was injuries. And that makes me think ahead to 2025. What happens if the injury bug hits again? Is Rutgers going to have the depth to be able to withstand injuries and remain competitive, particularly given how difficult the schedule is going to be?
So it depends on where we get injured. That's my answer. If we get injured at quarterback, I think we're doomed. I forget who said it. I want to say Saban, that you don't prepare for certain players getting injured, because what's the point of preparing for being losers? I don't remember. It's something along that line. I'll have to fact check later.
Yes.
If you know what I'm talking about when I'm thinking of that quote. But for running backs, I believe if a player gets injured, like I said, Jashawn Benjamin, he's a plug-in player. So especially if CJ Campbell goes down, I think Jashawn can fit in perfectly because he complements what Anton Raymond brings too.
Yeah.
It'll be a little more difficult if Raymond gets injured because Campbell and Benjamin sort of do similar things, but that could just be a running back by committee type of thing, sort of, like a Sonic and Knuckles, but for Rutgers. Now, if we get injured in the D line, we have four new D linemen here. We have Eric O'Neill from James Madison, Bradley Weaver from Ohio, Doug Blue Eli, South Florida, and Daryl Denegohi. You'll have to correct me, Daryl, if you want to come on the show, because I'm probably getting that wrong. Also from James Madison. Now, O'Neill and Weaver, they are very good complements to one another. They got a total of 21 and a half sacks last season. O'Neill actually got what the younger generation calls a thick six, which is when a D lineman gets an interception and takes it to the house for a touchdown. O'Neill's a beast, 52 tackles, 18 and a half for loss. Weaver got 44 tackles, 15 for a loss. If either one of them goes down, I believe that the other will just pick up their slack. With Doug Blue Eli, DBE, he just hasn't really been so impressive at South Florida. I mean, no sacks or forced fumbles, 17 combined tackles in 10 games, no interceptions. Obviously, that's most of the D linemen, but he hasn't really been too impressive. So if both were to somehow go down for a game, that's good game, well played, we lost. So we have the depth to replace one guy at a time, not really two guys, not three guys.
All right, so I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
Based on the four players that you mentioned, this Bradley Weaver, defensive end, 6'4", 262, 44 tackles, 15 for loss last season, and had 5 tackles against Syracuse. But he's from Ohio University. Let me be clear. It is not Ohio State. It is Ohio University. And then we have our friend Eric O'Neill here, another defensive end with 52 tackles and 18.5 for loss and 13 sacks last year, coming from the very academic school, James Madison. And we have another academic in Daryl Dengoa from James Madison, 6'2", 290, 28 tackles, 6 for loss last year. And Doug Blue Eli from South Florida, he's 6'2", 315 with 37 tackles last year, 5 for loss. But last time I checked, James Madison is an academic school, and Ohio University, I don't know that they even have a good football team. And South Florida, my only question to you is, they're coming from these schools. How good could they be?
I think you can't control your competition. You can control your production, and they all have the production. I don't think we can really blame them for their production, or for their competition, rather. Obviously, it's sort of a lose-lose scenario, because if you don't produce, then that's a double negative. If you do produce, then it cancels out. So sure, I understand the criticism, and only time will tell. I mean, especially with, you're saying Ohio, you're not sure how their football team is. We'll find out, in several months when we play them week 1. But I mean, it's fair criticism, but I don't think that's something you can live and die by. I mean, the only way we'll be able to find out is when we implement them.
Yes, but Gabe, I want transfers from Texas,
I mean,
Alabama.
we got a transfer from Penn State.
Oh, please don't tell me it's Drew Aller.
I'll save you your emotions. It's not Drew Aller. It's Cam
Uh,
Miller,
Cam
cornerback.
Miller. Yeah, now this is
He's
going to bolster the secondary, isn't it?
absolutely 17 tackles, passes deflected, which is huge. It doesn't seem huge, but when you think about how many balls either are overthrown, underthrown, or complete, passes deflected, that's a huge statistic. 5 of them. I mean, if you think about it, that's sort of like the win above replacement statistic for cornerbacks. So he had 5 passes deflected, no fumbles or picks, but he had 5 PDs and 4 starts. I mean, that's huge. I think
Yeah, that
that's going to
is.
translate amazing. His stats should only inflate for us because he's going to be the Sauce Gardner of our team.
All right, so let me ask you this question: how did we get someone as talented as Cam Miller and take him away from the Nittany Lions? What was the pitch there to get him to go to Rutgers? Because I want other players from teams like Penn State to come too.
Well, I don't think I can give you the whole pitch. What I can say is it was more his frustration with Penn State than his liking to us. Obviously, it's a mutual agreement for him to come here, but it started with him entering the portal. I mean, that was the first step in the process. He had to be upset probably with how things ended last year, maybe upset at his quarterback's boneheaded decision, but I mean, maybe he wanted to separate himself from the system and make a name for himself. That was probably the pitch was you can be the Revis Island, you can be the Quinion Mitchell of this team, you can be the Sauce Gardner, like you can be that guy, and we can elevate you from a system player to a draft pick. And I really
Wow.
think, I mean, the thing is like, Ethan, you can be drafted. Cam Miller, you can be drafted. I mean, like we have guys that can be drafted. Manon guy is about to be drafted probably. We have
Yeah.
we're able that's the pitch is we're able to elevate you post college career.
Yeah.
Hence you're either already a draft pick or you're not. They don't elevate the players into that position. They recruit players that are already going to be like that. That's that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you make great points. And I think that Rutgers has to have that pitch where it's like you're going to be part of a program that's building a foundation that will one day be the first Rutgers team to win a national title. And you're going to get a great education and you're going to develop and you're going to have a career in the NFL. I guess that's what they said to Jacoby Henderson from Marshall University, 5'11, 191 pounds. Also coming to the Scarlet Knights with 2 years of eligibility remaining, 50 tackles, 2 interceptions last year, and 4 tackles against Virginia Tech and Ohio State. And then, of course, we can't forget about Las Vegas. Jet Elad, the safety from UNLV, 6'1", 205, 84 tackles, 5 for loss, 1 sack, an interception, and 6 pass breakups last year. So it seems like when we talk about the depth issue, Coach Giano and his staff have done a good job of bringing more people in on the defensive line in the secondary to avoid what happened last year and to provide the kind of depth that will sustain a season.
Yeah, absolutely. What impresses me the most about these transfers is the tackle numbers for sure. I mean, obviously with Cam Miller, that's sort of an outlier. The 5 passes deflected is the most impressive. But for everyone else, it's mostly the tackles. I mean, we're not going to have these guys scoring touchdowns in 1 or 2 deep plays. If they get touchdowns against us, it's going to be in 12, 15 plays because they're not going to get free downfield. So, I mean, look, they might get some first downs on us, but they're not going to get 50-yard plays, 60-yard plays. We're going to get the tackle when it's one-on-one open field.
Well, a bend but don't break defense. If they can hold teams in the red zone to 3 points more often than not, it could be a successful season. Now,
Absolutely.
there's two other players coming in from high school. Wydeek Collier, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, from Newman Goretti High School, 6'6", 205. He's listed as an athlete. So can you educate me and explain what does that exactly mean? Does that mean he can play multiple positions?
So yeah, when it's listed as athlete next to position, it's sort of like major being undecided. Usually it's positions that complement each other, like offensive line, defensive line. I don't know if you played modified football, varsity football back in the day, back in 2010 when you were in high school, or 2015. But I mean, we usually had to play two positions. My two positions were right guard and left end. So usually it's offensive line, defensive line, wide receiver, corner, tight end, linebacker, and then quarterback would sort of just be anything. But it's probably he's probably a two-way player, and you can't figure out which position suits him best. Does it give his weight in there? Because that might be a sign of
6'6", 205. Sounds like a wide receiver to me.
yeah, that's either a wide receiver or a safety.
Okay. Well, speaking of high school, I remember I played for Bergen Catholic High School back in 1989 as a freshman. I was a cornerback who could not possibly cover the option for whatever reason, but I do remember those days. People played both ways, and Bergen Catholic, along with Don Bosco, very successful program. We've also got Chris Hewitt Jr. from Calvert Hall College High School. 195, another athlete. So there's a lot of positives here when we think about depth. And when we think about the key players, that running back room is going to be strong. Ethan is going to get much better. If that happens and we minimize injuries and these players, these transfers really show out and play well, Rutgers, despite a much more difficult schedule, might even have a more successful year.
Yes. And there is one more player I wanted to touch on.
Of course.
Obviously, we have 3.5 running backs, whatever you consider Ethan to do, because he'll get almost as many rushing yards as passing yards on a week-to-week basis. But when he does throw the ball, I think he's going to be throwing it a lot to DT Sheffield, who transferred from North Texas. He was ranked the number 44, wide receiver in his class. If he was number 1, that would have been fantastic. But he was on Washington State University's championship runner-up roster. Obviously unproductive there, but he had a breakout second year with North Texas. 66 catches for 822 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he also returned 13 punts for 157 yards. So to me, he's sort of like got the potential to be, especially if any of the running backs get injured, he's got the potential to be sort of a 2021 Deebo Samuel type of player when he was getting 60 carries, but also getting 1,400 yards. I mean, this could be if Ethan has a great year, expect DT Sheffield to be one of the key reasons why.
Absolutely. All right, so we've got some key players for 2025. We've talked about Ethan Kaliakmanis, the running back room, the defense, the defensive line, and the secondary, which has gotten a lot more depth due to Greg Schiano and his staff doing a fantastic job. I'll tell you, Gabe, it must be rough being a college football coach these days. All year round, constant recruiting,
Yeah, the players, they get off, but the coaches don't really get off.
Yeah, they've done a great job so far. Overall, ranked 34th in the country in recruiting, and so you got to give them credit. Oh, yeah. We do have a call here from our good friend Austin Williams. We're looking forward to getting his thoughts. Austin, how you doing? Thanks so much for calling.
Nuggets.
Howdy, gentlemen. Happy Tuesday. How are you all doing?
Doing good.
Great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Well, other than this cold weather, but that's what you get this time of year.
It's gotten all of us.
But I will say, listening to you gentlemen, I feel more insightful because I kind of, you talk about Kyle Nanungai, and man, he's fun to watch. And the fact, Gabe, that you bring up, he's a potential draft pick.
Yeah.
He could be a draft steal. And I mean that in all seriousness.